ABC 10 News at 4 starts now.
Federal agents stop a militia plan to kidnap the governor of Michigan and storm the state capitol.
Those disagreements should never, ever amount to violence.
How the FBI uncovered the elaborate scheme to violently overthrow government officials and target law enforcement. ICE targets San Diego in a statewide raid to send a message about California's sanctuary cities. Plus, a format change sparks a campaign fight over the next presidential debate. And this just in, San Diego mayoral candidate Todd Gloria says he has been receiving death threats, and now San Diego police are investigating. In a press release, Gloria blames local politician Carl DeMaio and his mayoral opponent Barbara Bry for creating an atmosphere that fuels violence. The death threat messages refer to Gloria's vote on a bill that the governor signed that gives a judge more discretion to decide if someone needs to register as a sex offender if they had sex with a minor, regardless of whether the offender was gay or straight. And advocates say it ends the law's discrimination against LGBTQ individuals. We're reaching out to San Diego police and both Carl DeMaio and Barbara Bry about these developments. We'll get back to you. And now to recent ICE raids targeting so-called sanctuary cities all over California. More than 100 people were arrested, including 24 in San Diego County. ABC 10 News anchor Lindsay Pena explains the message behind it in a battle between federal and state government.
The Otay Mesa detention facility is where the undocumented immigrants picked up in a recent raid now are, if they haven't already been deported. Immigration and Customs Enforcement held a news conference by phone Thursday to announce the recent arrests, saying they took 24 people into custody over the 5-day operation.
The reason why we did the operation is, again, this is a continuing effort to raise public awareness of the dangerous sanctuary state laws passed by the state of California.
San Diego Field Office Director Gregory Archambault says all but one of the individuals arrested were targets on their list. According to ICE, 80% of those people had criminal convictions, pending criminal charges, or both. Archambault says the laws preventing local law enforcement from cooperating with federal authorities impacts public safety.
Innocent members of the public at risk and also abandons the victims. So this is why we conduct these operations.
But immigrants' rights activists see it very differently.
The Trump administration is using this as a political campaign. And it's unfortunate that's being done at the backs of hardworking families, many of whom are migrants who live and contribute to this country.
Pedro Rios with the American Friends Service Committee says the raids are simply an effort by the Trump administration to instill fear surrounding undocumented immigrants before the election. He says those immigrants should remember they still have rights under the Constitution and worries about those often referred to as collateral arrests who weren't targets but end up being deported.
They have the right to remain silent. They have the right to make a phone call. They have a right to not be mistreated when they're being apprehended. All these rights still apply.
Lindsay Pena, ABC 10 News.
And now to a violent kidnapping plan allegedly months in the making. 13 people are accused in a plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan at her vacation home in an effort to overthrow the state government. Jim Kurtzner explains how the plan evolved across social media to training and recruiting and ended with federal raids overnight.
Here they go.
A neighbor inside this mobile home park in Heartland was rolling as the feds and Michigan State Police moved in, wearing camo, holding long guns. No officers were injured here or in several other simultaneous raids. The arrest of 13 people around the state, all were arrested without attempts to resist.
The FBI and state police executed arrests of several of the conspirators when they were meeting on the east side of the state to pool funds for explosives and exchange tactical gear.
According to the federal complaint, the plot was hatched with a growing hatred of Michigan state government and Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who today called the people arrested sick and depraved. Federal charges conspiracy to kidnap. The early plot discussed with 15 people at a meeting in Dublin, Ohio in June, talking about murdering tyrants, meaning state officials, taking a sitting governor. The plot grew, the feds say, with private Facebook videos, encrypted chats. They held tactical training with guns and improvised explosive devices. They said they needed 200 to storm the state capitol. They met at a business in Grand Rapids in a room through a trap door. The feds had confidential informants from a militia group, undercover agents, audio recordings from the meetings.
All of us in Michigan can disagree about politics, but those disagreements should never, ever amount to violence.
That was Jim Kurtzner reporting, and the federal charges against the suspects in the alleged plot to kidnap the governor carry a possible sentence of life in prison. The next presidential debate is in jeopardy. The Commission for Presidential Debates announced that it would take a new virtual format due to the president's coronavirus infection. The president rejected the idea.
No, I'm not going to waste my time on a virtual debate. That's not what debating's all about.
President Trump said that he would hold a rally instead, and then the Biden campaign said it would hold its own event on the 15th to speak to voters. And next, the Trump campaign suggested postponing each of the remaining debates by a week so they could be held in person. But the Biden campaign said no, and the final debate should take place on October 22nd.
We don't know what the president's going to do. He changes his mind every second.
The Commission on Presidential Debates says the virtual format decision was made to protect the health and safety of all involved in the debate. It said neither campaign was consulted beforehand. In Kearney Mesa, investigators are determining if a car show late last night was connected to a violent fight nearby. At least 4 people were stabbed at a gas station shortly after. As ABC 10 News reporter Vanessa Paz explains, police say the car show could be connected to complaints of drag racing.
About 200 people or so flock to these car shows that are spread throughout the county, and police can't confirm if they are involved in any illegal activity. But they are emphasizing traffic divisions are ramping up their drag racing operations after multiple and ongoing community complaints. Thursday morning, police were still scouring the Chevron off convoy in Kearney Mesa, laying out yellow evidence markers after 4 people were reportedly stabbed following a fight in this parking lot. Just hours before, a car show reportedly took place down the street around midnight. Police can't confirm if the two are connected, but they said recently complaints regarding drag racing, drivers putting the public at risk, have increased. And if this violent act is in any way connected, that number adds to growing concerns. Coincidentally, San Diego police posted this video on their Instagram early Wednesday as a public service announcement. It describes an incident last week in Kearney Mesa where cars were driving recklessly, almost hitting pedestrians. The post also confirms a grant from the California Office of Traffic Safety will help them crack down on illegal street racing and anything related that would put the public at risk. Now, those victims involved in this morning's stabbings were between the ages of 16 and 21, and we're told that they're doing okay. Police have said that no one yet is in custody in relation to this crime, but they are asking you to call police if you have any information. Reporting in Kearney Mesa, Vanessa Paz, ABC 10 News.
And let's start the news feed. A potential coronavirus treatment could get emergency use authorization. Regeneron is sending its application in for its monoclonal antibody therapy. It's the same one that was used for President Trump. Dr. Anthony Fauci says today there's a reasonably good chance the experimental therapy made the president much better. Airlines could be waiting longer for more aid from the government. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says they won't approve financial help that only goes to airlines. She's calling for more widespread stimulus legislation. New York City is looking to curb a spike in COVID-19 cases. Hundreds of businesses have shut down in certain areas deemed red zones. Other restrictions were put in for places like houses of worship and schools. Some states are now making plans to vet any COVID-19 vaccines themselves. We're getting perspective on what that would mean legally for those states to go over the federal government's authority.